the situations change. So whereas I didn't have a gallery in Santa Fe for the first several years I was here, and I was a widely exhibited artist around the country and in New Orleans when I came here. It was really tough. So I've had really good galleries for many years now. But the climate has, again, you know, I'm glad I have something else to do that relates to my art and also nourishes my art. So I think the opportunities are greater in Santa Fe now. In many cases, it could always be a lot more, but people do see my work here, and it does have a better name in terms of contemporary art, I think, and more exciting, challenging art than maybe it did before.
That's a change, isn't it? Because part of the reputation in the past has really been about Western art and Native American imagery, and not so much about contemporary.
Right, that was the reputation when I first came here, and I researched very much to make sure that there was enough contemporary art here, and there was. You just had to look for it. And also the intellectual climate, you know, is exciting. And now we have art fairs, and we have really interesting people coming to speak all the time, and not just about art, but in these other realms that I'm interested in, and writers and poets. So it's an enriching place that way. If we could just make it a little warmer in the winter, I'd be happier.
Oh, well, you can't have everything.
No, you can't.
Well, what you just said sort of points to community and how you interact with various parts of the community. Do you have various networks that you're involved in that allow you to sort of make your way through things? Like, is there a community here at the West Side Studios of artists who get together? Or?
Not really. You know, it's really interesting. I find less community than I expected in Santa Fe, but I do have a community of encaustic artists and friends who are artists, and I don't know about the larger community so much. And maybe I'm just too busy to be involved, but I would, you know, I have been involved more probably when I first came here than in some ways I am now with.
So the encaustic artists are sort of a tight-knit group?
There's a lot of interaction. There's a lot of getting together to exhibit. They formed the Encaustic Art Institute out on Cerrillos Road, of which I'm a member, but rarely have time to do much. But it's a great group. And I'm very much connected to groups of artists across the country, both encaustic and not. But
well, I think it's really been great to have the encaustic show at the community gallery. It seems to have a great reception from the general public who don't necessarily know what encaustic is. So there was a lot of curiosity, I know, at the opening about what encaustic means, and a nice response to the various types of work that have been done. And a good variety, I think. Don't you think in that show there was a nice variety?
It is, and it's just huge what people can do with the process and the medium. You know, I was always taught that you should choose the medium because it's the best medium for what it is you have to say, and I agree with that. And it's very rewarding to see so many different artists use it so differently, because you know that they are speaking with their own voice, and that they have individual ideas and their own content, and it's not just because it's beautiful. It is beautiful, but it's all these other things too. It's a process and a medium that just allows your creativity to flourish. I mean, one of the things I like about it is that it is a medium that's slightly out of control. You know, you work with heat. I mean, it's so unusual, and it melts and it moves and it comes up through the layers and it spreads around. And so what I always like media that require some kind of dialogue, that have a media that's a little bit out of control, that has its own mind. And so I might start with a plan or a loose idea, and then something else happens, maybe just a little off, and then I can go with that, and then I'll continue, and you know, we have like this dialogue. I tell it something and it tells me something, and sometimes it's a fight and sometimes it's just a big party. So it's really the perfect media for me. So
Could you tell me a little bit about how you made Disappear, the one that's up at the community gallery?
sure, that is a collection of 12 encaustic monotypes, very large, like the pieces here and around the studio that I think we'll probably look at a little bit more in a minute. But they're 40 inches high by 26 inches wide individually, and they're in a grid of 6 in 2 layers. So it becomes quite large. And they're, the way the monotypes are made, you have a heated piece of equipment called the hot box, and it has a metal plate over the top, and I have a huge one myself right here in the studio. It has 20 light bulbs inside, and then there are smaller ones too. But basically you heat up the metal plate with the light bulbs, and then you take encaustic and apply it to the metal plate, and it melts right away. You take it usually in cold form, so you can take a big chunk of it and draw with it or flake it off, which is what I did for creating the spots in Disappear, and let those, the process in short form is you apply it, or you can brush it on, and then once you have it melted on the surface, you can manipulate it more with tools and brushes. And when you're ready, you simply lay a sheet of paper on top, lightly press the back, and pull up the print. You don't need a press. You don't even need a lot of pressure. It's really more about absorbing and touching that wax. With Disappear, I let the pieces of wax spread and melt, and when you manipulate the heat, as I was doing with time and in different ways, the clear wax begins to separate from pigment, and it flows away, and it creates a clear halo of wax around the color. And I utilize that as in the piece. And when I assembled all the grid of those monotypes, I began to think of more and more of this Louisiana wetlands. That wasn't in my mind when I started this, but it would not leave my mind. So I said, okay, that's what this is going to be. And I began to layer them. The clear parts of the encaustic become translucent when light comes through the paper. It makes the paper translucent. And a funny thing happens, the paper that doesn't have any wax on it, when it's backlit, becomes darker. So it's a little bit of a puzzle when you're looking at it. So I opened up some of the spaces by cutting in between, and it became very lace-like and fragile, just like the wetlands. That's what I remembered from that airplane flight, was how fragile and lace-like the whole thing was. So I assembled these 2 layers of 6 huge monoprints and hung them with magnets from a steel rod, and had another layer of wax colored paper behind them, and behind that some daylight fluorescent lights that are very small. The tube is very small and the light is very pleasant. Daylight, not yellow or blue or anything. So it's actually, it folds up into a portfolio just, a couple inches high and yay big.
Well, it's great, as is all your work. I really appreciate your taking the time to do this interview, and I think it'll be really interesting for the viewers.
Thanks. I hope so.
Thank you, Paula. So we've been talking with Paula Roland, I'm Sabrina Pratt with the Santa Fe Arts Commission. We're here in the West Side Studios in Santa Fe, and she's one of the great Santa Fe artists. And I hope you'll find us again with another interview of a Santa Fe artist sometime in the future.